Thank you very much, Josh, and thank you, Streakwave, for hosting this event. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone that's out there. Thank you for taking the time, I know in your busy schedule, to listen to what we have to offer. So first off, what I wanted to do is just kind of introduce your presenters for the day. So as Josh said, my name is Craig Tiffany. I'm the Vice President of Sales at OpenMesh. With me today, I've got Ryan Detwiller, who's the head of design and user experience. So I've got Brian Patterson as well, who's a sales engineer who will be helping us out with the Q&A throughout the event, as well as at the end when we have an open Q&A. So real quick, talk about our past. So our founder back in 2005 had a school-aged child, and he noticed the difference of access to the internet and access to Wi-Fi greatly impacted students in middle and in primary schools. So in an altruistic move, he founded a not-for-profit called Net Equality with a partner, and they were trying to figure out how they could provide a low-cost, easy-to-install, and reliable network into homes or low-income communities where access to the internet may not be there. They got hooked up with some folks from MIT who were building something called RoofNet. And what RoofNet did was created a mesh network. So from one access point, they could connect to another access point, broadcast connects to another access point, and broadcast from there. So between the two, they were able to create an overall network where Net Equality wrote what was ended up being the cloud controller and control plane of the network, and what RoofNet built were the access points and the technology that allowed a mesh to occur. A few years later, the folks from MIT formed a company called Meraki, which you all may be familiar with, and kind of changed the way they did business and changed the way they worked on things. Our founder saw an opportunity to where there was still a gap in the market. So he got his own contractors, contract manufacturing, and started producing his own access points. And that's how OpenMesh was born back in 2007. So that was 2007. What about now? Why would you consider OpenMesh? The first thing is that OpenMesh was born as a cloud-managed solution. We have the ability to build, manage, and monitor your wireless network from anywhere, and it doesn't matter what you're on. If you're on a PC, an Android app, or an iPhone, you can configure, deploy, and manage your network all from one pane of glass. Also, it's easy and automatic. When I say it's easy, what I mean is you set up an account in Cloudtrax, you build a network, and then you scan a barcode on back of an access point, plug it in, and you are operating. It's up and working. Our deployments are quick and easy, and the mesh, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is automatic. If the device senses an Ethernet port or an Ethernet cable plugged into it, it does not have it disables mesh. If there is no Ethernet port, it enables mesh and starts looking for its own neighbors. Also, we're modular. So we've got really two different versions of product, an OM product and an MR product. For the OM product, we have several different types of enclosures. All the enclosures cost the same amount of money, and they all work with the same devices. So we've got a ceiling enclosure, a wall plug enclosure, an Ethernet wall jack with an Ethernet pass-through, and finally an outdoor weather-resistant solution on the OM side. On the MR side, we've got a sealed device that can be out in the open in the weather, and I just wouldn't dunk it in the water. Is about as far as I'd go. Submersion probably wouldn't work in that space. The third part about why OpenMesh is the reliability. So not only is our mean time between failure on these devices over 35 years through what's the word I'm looking for? Theoretically, 35 years, because we haven't even been around for 35 years. But we also have things involved with the device that make it reliable, such as a watchdog CPU. Its only function on the printed circuit board is to make sure that the operations of the access point continue to operate and continue to be in contact with either the Cloudtrax provider or, if need be in a standby or orphan situation. We also provide for second flash partition for safe over-the-air upgrades. So if we were to, when customers deploy or upgrade their devices, they actually are upgrading to a second partition so that if anything were to fail, a rollback is very easy. And finally, the cloud is hosted in multiple locations within AWS with multiple failovers. So if one were to go down, we always have a backup or a fail-to location, and the cloud always remains up. Not the last solution, but another big reason customers are choosing us is our ability to white label. We provide no branding on the hardware and have the ability to remove branding from the controller as well. And the idea behind this is it's not about OpenMesh. It's about our partners, resellers, and MSPs that are deploying our products today. Even the end user customers, if they would like, can put a sticker on the device and make it look like it's their own application and own device. And finally, disruptive pricing. As I mentioned before, the whole genesis for OpenMesh was to provide that low price access point that can be managed easily, is reliable, and is low cost. And with $75 for our least expensive device, or less than 100 in one of our enclosures, that really is very much disruptive pricing. The last part about this is, for our cloud controller, there are no subscription fees. So we don't charge for the management. We don't charge an annual licensing fee. And the idea behind that is we want to provide a solution for our customers and what they see today. So now I'll briefly go into our primary markets. If you've got questions throughout this, please go ahead and type them into the questions portion of the application, and we'll get to them at the end. Just want to make sure, I know I'm talking quickly, but I want to make sure you can ask those questions. We'll record those questions and get back out to everyone. So back to the presentation. Our primary market, the first and largest by far, is hotels and resorts, where we're deployed in the rooms, in the common areas, around the pool, and in some situations we're even deployed at the beach, where someone's either pulled a cable or built their own solar-powered access point that can control and provide Wi-Fi access while you're sitting on the beach. Why you need that, I'm not quite sure. I'd be probably spending time on the beach if I was on the beach. But anyway, we've got the ability to provide everything you need from a hotel and resort. Some of the controls that we have are per user bandwidth control. We have a friendly splash page that can be used both for a PC, Mac, or a mobile device. And finally, a ticket or voucher system that allows for allow it to be a higher end access, higher bandwidth access, higher quality access, things like that. And finally, we also have support for third-party captive portals. You'll see on our website that we do partner with quite a few different folks, and we do interact with quite a few different captive portal companies. The second location is in the office and SMB. So you have the ability to deploy secure, cost-effective staff and guest networks with the same splash page, with the same captive portal, with the same voucher system. You may have a non-charge voucher system where you only want to allow your guests to have 1 hour's worth of access. You would create a voucher for that so that when they leave, they're not still on your network. And all of this, again, is managed by the cloud from one pane of glass. The third area which is growing quickly is the retail and food and beverage, be it from a POS system, closed-loop POS system, to a retail provider that just wants to allow to allow Wi-Fi access to its customers. This section is growing quickly. It allows for a lot of different things. One is the ability to market to their consumers, the ability to understand who is visiting their location, as well as some presence analytics. So they know who's in the store, how many footfalls are in the store, and figure out a way to market to those people directly. And lastly, with all the solutions, you've got Facebook integration. So you're using a captive portal, and you want to make it easy for the customer to sign in, but you want to capture the minimal amount of data, you can use a Facebook Wi-Fi integration. Lastly, housing. So this is another fast-growing area that is allows multiple dwelling units to utilize the Wi-Fi access points and take a look at what's so for dorms, care homes, retirement complexes, any type of old apartment buildings where wiring is not capable or wiring is not done first, you have the ability to retrofit these locations with access points. Most of the time, these are wired, but we have the ability to mesh, as it's in our name, access points that we don't have the ability to get a network drop to, but may have the ability to get power to. If we can get power, then we can provide networking for those solutions. Some of our customers, quick talk about our customers. So today we have over 75,000 active networks. This is as of yesterday. This is a network that's been configured with at least one access point, and we have some that are up over thousands of access points. We also have 23.6 million monthly users, unique users of the application. While we don't collect personal information, we do know how many people connect to an access point and connect to a network, and we're able to track that, monitor that, and help alert on that if necessary. Some of our other customers, or more accurately, the customers of our customers, are shown on this page. These are folks who have been deployed either via a franchise agreement or just locally. These are all customers that use us today. This is not an exhaustive list, but gives you an idea of the type of folks that are using our products, both in the corporate environment and in the hospitality department and in the housing and retail location. As you can see from this map, this is a representation of the networks all over the globe. And you can see that we've grown very strongly in areas where we've had the assistance of Streakwave, such as North America, the United Kingdom and Western Europe, as well as a strong presence in Australia and New Zealand. This map changes almost daily, and more folks are being added on a regular basis. Lastly, kind of talking about the market opportunity. Why are we in this space? If you look at a typical marketing chart of trying to determine where there's a need for a solution. Today, high cost, high complexity solutions are all over the network, all over the market, and you have the ability to purchase those if you want. A low cost, high complexities are out there as well, as are high cost and low complexity. We're the only company, OpenMesh, who provides a low cost and low complexity solution for our customers. And we'll continue to do this for as long as we possibly can. Not only are we low cost, easy to install, and reliable. A quick look at our model lineup. This is not meant to be a product pitch, it's more of an overview. We wanted to give you an idea of the solutions that we have today: the OM2P, the OM2PHF, the OM5P AC, which is the newest member of our lineup, and finally the MR1750. And as I said before, the enclosures that we have. We have an Ethernet jack enclosure, an outdoor ceiling enclosure, outdoor pole wall enclosure, and finally an indoor enclosure. Those are all for the OM series. That's the OM2P and the OM5P. And lastly, the MR series solution, outdoor enclosure for the MR series. So that brings me to the end of the kind of overview and what we have to offer. I'm going to be turning it over to Ryan to take over for the actual demonstration of Cloudtrax. So Ryan, take it away.
All right, thanks for that, Craig. So like Craig said, my name is Ryan. I work with the product and design team here at OpenMesh and want to give you a quick view of Cloudtrax. Cloudtrax is kind of the centralized place where all of your devices check into, where all the management happens. So it's really key for us in terms of just the overall OpenMesh experience. Cloudtrax is really ideal when you need to manage multiple sites or large sites. And so I'll get into that, a little bit of that today as well. Of course, there's nothing to install, there's nothing to maintain, there's nothing to log in remotely to, and there's no monthly fees. So everything that you see in Cloudtrax today is free, has always been free, and we intend to keep it free forever. So this is the login page for Cloudtrax. You can see if you don't have an account already, you can create one just in a few seconds up in the corner here. There's also some guides. So if you're new to Cloudtrax, new to OpenMesh, we have a quick start guide that kind of runs through Cloudtrax. We have a planning guide that helps you plan out your network. And then we also have some additional guides in terms of splash pages, vouchers, PayPal, setting that all up. There's also links to the mobile applications. So most of the features that are in our web app are also available in the mobile app, but they add some additional features that are really handy for in the field. So for example, if you're on site, you have an iPhone, you can just scan the back of the access point and that will adopt it into the network for you. There's also a link to our help center here. So if you have any questions, obviously we can answer those here in the webinar today. There's also a lot of resources online. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Cloudtrax. And just a quick overview of the application. So Cloudtrax will always dump you back into the network that you were previously working on, so to minimize the number of clicks that you have. What I'm going to do is jump into the All Networks view. So this screen shows all the networks that we have under my account. So I've created an account. We've added a bunch of different sites. You may have these broken out by, different customer groups, different chains you're working with, different locations. And it's just an idea. The idea here is to get a quick overview of what's happening on a global scale. So you can see, are there any networks where you have a lot of APs down? We do a lot of testing here, so these are, intentional outages, but obviously, this will show up relatively quickly if you have a site that's gone down. You can also track your firmware versions here as well. So that's the list view. There's also a geographical representation if you want to kind of get a view of your networks overall. Now, I'll walk through the network creation process, adding an access point, and then we'll get into the configuration and management features of Cloudtrax. So the nice thing is we have this all networks view. You can also jump in and see a list of all your networks from any page within Cloudtrax, including the outages. If you have a lot of networks, some of our customers manage hundreds or thousands of locations, you can quickly filter down and find the location that you're looking for. You can also, from either this view or from the All Networks view, create a new network. So I'll go ahead and do that now. To create a new network, it's very easy. Simply give it a name. Give it a password. So the way our user management system works today, your account gives you full administrative access to all of the networks. But for each individual network, if you enter a password, that'll give you an option for a local administrator to log into that network. And enter location. Let us know what type of network it is so we can customize the experience for you a bit. And you have the option to clone a network here. So by default, we kind of set up your Cloudtrax networks with a guest SSID and a secure private SSID for your staff and for your business. You can also configure a network in Cloudtrax. Say you're using the same settings on a continual basis, you're always just replicating the same settings. Just create those settings once, and then you can clone it to create the new network. So we can choose any of the networks that we have in place here already. Today, I'm just going to show you the default settings and hit create. So that network is now created. You can see that we've gone to that page here, and it's dropped me right into the access points page. So now all I need to do is enter my first access point. So let's just call this AP1 and enter the MAC address that's located on the back of the AP. I can give it a description if you want to be, say, hey, this is going in a network closet, or this is going in a ceiling outside the kitchen area. We can add that. To add additional access points, just click on the map, give it a name, and enter the MAC address and hit add. That's all you need to do. As soon as these access points have power and an internet connection, they'll check into Cloudtrax, they'll download their configuration, and they'll also start reporting data. So we mentioned up at the top here that that typically takes a couple minutes, so it's very quick and easy to get those access points online. So now those access points are added, I'm going to jump into the configuration. So these are the general settings that we set up when we created the network. You also have the ability to enable email alerts. So if an access point goes down, doesn't come back up again, we'll email you about it, so you can check it out on site. We have 4 SSIDs. So we've already configured the first 2. The first one is based on a guest SSID. The second one is based on a private secure SSID. And so, we've already put the SSID name in place. We've enabled it. We've made it visible. We're going to leave authentication off, the WPA authentication. But we're going to put bandwidth throttling on. So each user gets 5 megabits per second down, 2.5 up. And that's just so that there's not one individual user that's able to use up all of our available bandwidth. And we can adjust this. We can make it as granular as we want, have in place. Because this is a guest SSID, what we want to do is set up a splash page for it. So there's a few different options here. One is a custom splash page that's hosted by Cloudtrax. Again, there's nothing to install. You can edit the splash page here. I'll show you that in a moment. The other option is Facebook Wi-Fi. So this will actually pull a local business Facebook page and have guests check into that Facebook page in order to get network access. So again, if you have a Facebook page, that's very, very easy to do. Click Register Network. It'll ask you to log into Facebook and pair that page, and that's it. You're done. There's also options to host pages remotely. So for service providers, if you want to have your own system set up, it's very easy to do that. Very powerful, I should say. This kind of requires a bit more technical know-how. But we also integrate with a number of third-party services, such as Cloud4Y, Purple Wi-Fi. There's a lot of them out there that you can integrate with Cloudtrax. So we'll go ahead and just show you very quickly the custom splash page here. So we include a number of templates to get you started. So for example, if you want to do a coffee shop, we have this image here. You can drag and drop logos on top. You can add your own text, and you can determine what type of access you want to offer. So we're going to leave free access in place. We're going to leave the passcode access in place for vouchers, but we're not going to use Radius or PayPal. So we can actually just select this and just delete it. And those are now gone. Like I said, you can change this text, you can customize it however you want. If you want full HTML editing, you can jump into the HTML editor and edit to your heart's content. We host all the images, and these splash pages are actually going to be downloaded to the access point, so they don't even need to go out to the internet. Everything is just ready to go. You also have the ability to preview what these splash pages look like. So this is the default laptop tablet view. Obviously, a lot of our customers our customers are logging into Wi-Fi on a mobile device. So you can see what this splash page looks like on a mobile phone, and go from there. So we'll save those changes and close that up. There's a lot of settings here. A lot of powerful integrations that you can do, but you don't have to do anything. If you just want a basic network setup, we've basically taken care of all those settings for you. So, I don't need to get into everything, but obviously you can redirect. You can do whitelist for a device that you don't want to see the splash page, wall garden for web pages or files that you want to have available ahead of time before users authenticate against the network. The ability to schedule Wi-Fi. So if you want to have, your Wi-Fi, your guest Wi-Fi only available during the times that your business is open, we have a few templates here you can start, and you can customize those. Maybe you want to have an early start on a Monday morning, but leave it 8 to 6 the rest of the week. Again, just a lot of powerful features here. With the guest side, what we want to do is ensure that the guests can't access anything on our local network, and that they can't access other clients. So basically, with this SSID setup, guests have a tunnel out to the internet, and that's all they can do. They can't access any other devices. They can't access anything on our LAN, and they're all set. So I'm going to save those changes. And as soon as I hit that save button, those configuration settings are being sent to the access point. The access point will take those changes, and you're all set. The second SSID is going to be very similar, but we've set this one up to be used as a private secure network for staff or for company devices. So again, it's enabled, it's visible. We've enabled WPA pre-shared key in this case. You can also do WPA Enterprise. And in this case, we've disabled the captive portal features. So we're not using bandwidth throttling, splash pages. We're not blocking any devices. We'll leave Wi-Fi on because we have some devices that are going to be used 24/7 on the network. And I should just point out here, if you are using multiple SSIDs, you can bridge one of those to your local network without a VLAN, but you can bridge all of them if you're using VLAN. So you can associate certain SSIDs with different VLANs on the network. So we'll go ahead and save those changes as well. So in addition to those two SSIDs, there's SSIDs 3 and 4, which we haven't enabled, but you can enable those and you can configure those any way you want. So it gives you a lot of power, a lot of flexibility. All those SSIDs are broadcast across all the access points that you have on this network. Just running down the list here really quickly, there's also settings for vouchers. So in a hotel situation or a coffee shop, if you want to hand out vouchers to your guests, you have the option here of customizing those vouchers, sharing them across multiple networks. If you say you are doing a chain of coffee shops, you only want to create vouchers once, and you have particular codes or something, you can share those across different networks. We have the ability to do a lobby assistant user role. So essentially what that means is, say you have a front desk person that you want to manage your vouchers or your users on that network. You can create a password. They log in with the network name and the password, and then they have access to just that piece of Cloudtrax. They can't change anything else in terms of your SSID settings, your splash pages, configuration, but they can manage the voucher side of it. There's also PayPal as well. So if you have, an area where you want to charge for Wi-Fi, that's an option for you. Just again down the list. So getting into the radio. So when our APs check in, the country code is set based on the IP address, and by default, we just set the transmit power to the maximum that country allows, and that's in combination of the country settings, but also limitations of the hardware itself. You can scale this down. So if you have a lot of APs in a dense area, you probably want to turn that power down, and these are power settings for the network as a whole. Because the APs haven't checked in yet, there's not showing the 5 gigahertz channel, but that would typically show, and you would be able to set a network-wide channel for these access points across the board. You can override those on an individual basis. And even better than that is, keeping things easy to use would be using auto channel. So auto channel is a feature that came out a couple months ago, and what it does is during the maintenance window that you set, we'll show that in a moment here, you can have all these access points do a quick scan of the network. They're looking for other APs that are part of the network, other APs that are not part of the network, so third-party devices, and they're also looking at the mesh configuration, so looking at gateways and repeaters. All that information is uploaded to the cloud. We do a lot of processing on it and determine what are the most optimal channel settings for you to have on that network in terms of, spacing out, an example of, if you had all these access points hardwired in, you can, we'll just space those out on optimal channels. But if you're using mesh repeaters in some cases, we'll want to make sure that the gateway and repeater that are associated together are on the same channel. And then we'll also want to minimize interference with third-party devices. So the auto channel feature does all that for you. You don't have to worry about it. Just set it and forget it. And that will run during the maintenance window. So speaking of maintenance window, we have a quick page here on maintenance. So by default, we leave automatic upgrades on, and we put you on the stable firmware release. So what that means is typically 3 to 4 times a year, you'll get the latest stable release pushed to all of your access points. As Craig was saying, we have the dual partitions on our access points. So these upgrades are very reliable, very stable. We're pushing out to hundreds of thousands of access points at any given time with very little failure on that. That firmware upgrade and also the auto channel will only happen during the maintenance window. Obviously, we don't want to be pushing out upgrades to the network that happen, 2 p.m. when you're in the middle of a webinar with Streakwave. So you can set a maintenance window where you determine the start time, give us amount of time that you want it to last, and then allow us to work on your network at certain periods of time. So none of the configuration changes, none of the disruptive, upgrades or changes will happen outside of that window. A couple more options, just kind of running out the list. So in the display area, you have the ability to customize the Cloudtrax dashboard with your logo. You can enable a read-only view, which allows you to enter Cloudtrax and view the management settings, not change anything. And we also strip away some personally identifying information, but you can get an idea of what's happening on the network in terms of your access points and users. We also give you the ability to embed parts of Cloudtrax externally. So a lot of our customers are service providers, and they would typically have a client portal that their client can log into to get information, billing, etc. So you can actually just take this snippet and embed that in your page. So all the features that we have available in the manage section will be available there, and I'll get to that section in a moment here. So again, very quick, very easy, even to embed this in other third-party sites. It's really quick and easy to do. Finally, there's the advanced section. Typically, don't need to worry about this much. One area I will just point you to is this just bridging wired clients and bridging SSIDs. So our OM series devices have 2 Ethernet ports. And what that allows you to do is you can have one port that's being used for your LAN connection, The second port can either be used, if you're using the Ethernet wall jack enclosure, for example, a guest could plug in a hardwired device there, or a phone or TV, anything else. You can also plug in a switch to that other port and manage the devices that are connected to that switch. So if you want to bridge your wire clients, you're just telling us what settings you want us to use. Do you want us to treat anyone connected to that port as a guest device, so we'll show them the splash page, we'll enable bandwidth throttling, or do you want us to put them through and basically connect them to your LAN? There's also the ability to set an SSID that you want bridged to your network without using a VLAN. Like I said earlier, you can bridge one SSID without VLANs, but you can bridge all of them if you're using a different VLANs. So that's the configuration side of Cloudtrax. Now what I'll do is I'll jump back into our live network. This is actually running in our office right now, and get into the management side. So the first thing you'll see on the management side is this network overview. So this is just designed to give you a high-level overview of what's happening on your network. So you see the histogram that shows your clients over time, your download and your upload. You can get a view of what applications are being used on that network, the top clients on the network, so you can see if there's one client that's taking a disproportionate amount of bandwidth. You can see the device types that are on the network, and you can also have that same breakdown in terms of access points. So maybe you have one access point that's taking 90% of the load or something. It might be an idea to to add a second access point in that area to take off some of the clients. And then there's a quick map as well. So this is showing the access points, number of clients that are connected to that access point, and the channels that are associated with it. So that's just designed to give you a quick overview of what's happening on the network, but you don't do a whole lot of management on that specific page. To do the management, you want to jump down into the access points page if you're looking at access points, the clients, vouchers, or site survey. So we'll jump into the access points page. So there's two ways to view your access points. One is in a list form and one is in a map form. And the list basically gives you information about, okay, what's the model, status. All of our devices are gateways. I guess I could have plugged in a repeater device to show, what the difference looks like there, but it'll show you the status there. Again, name, IP information, et cetera. Just a lot of data in terms of usage, channels, et cetera. You also have the ability to take action on the access points right from the screen. You don't need to go anywhere else in order to edit it. So you can, obviously give it a name, the MAC address, description. You can associate it with a specific floor plan. So if you're doing a multi-story building, you can actually sort your access points and have, 5 access points on the first floor, 5 access points on the third floor, et cetera. And you can override the channel for each of those bands. So that's the table view. The map view is very similar. Again, it just depends on the type of network that you're deploying. If you have, a few access points and it doesn't really matter geographically where they are, you'll probably just use the list view most of the time. If you're doing a wide area network, where it's important to show kind of these relationships visibly, you can do that. And you can also show the different information on that network. So that's the access points screen. Similarly, you can see what's happening on your network from a client standpoint. So this table shows all of the clients that are associated with it, where it was last seen, when it was last seen. So if you want to see things that are on the network now, you can do so. Their OS. From here, you can quickly block a client. It takes one click to do it, or you can edit it. So, for example, this Android phone, I'm not sure whose phone that is, but it might be more meaningful to say, this is Craig's Samsung device rather than Android 75B80E3, so on. There's also the ability to, show and hide different screens on here. If you want to find a device specifically, you can filter very quickly to get to those devices. So rounding out the list, again, in that coffee shop scenario or hotel scenario, maybe you want to create vouchers and manage those vouchers. So this is a screen that you would go to and do that. You can create, if you want to do a single voucher, give it a voucher code, and specify the number of devices. You can use 0 devices if you just want to make it a general voucher for unlimited devices. give us some bandwidth limits, etc. It's very quick, very easy. And finally, the site survey. So every time our access points boot up, they do a quick scan of the area, and they identify any devices, any third-party devices that are not part of the network, and show the signal strength in the channel. So this is designed. I mean, this is the same information that we use to do the auto channel. But if you're trying to troubleshoot and trying to understand, why are clients in this part of my office not being able to connect, this is a quick tool to be able to do that. You can hit the scan. We don't have anything that's super high signal strength, but you can scan, you can identify the devices that may be causing trouble for you, and go from there. I will show you one other thing. So as Craig mentioned, we're really all about our partners here at Open Mesh, so we really help them shine. It's why you probably don't hear about Open Mesh a whole lot, but you know our customers and you know our customers' customers. One of the new things that we are just rolling out now is the ability to actually white label your dashboard completely. So Cloudtrax was created as a separate brand in order to kind of separate, one step away from Open Mesh. But you can do it a little bit further than that and now customize it to your own brand completely. So there's no mention of Open Mesh, no mention of Cloudtrax whatsoever. This is just in the account settings area. You can create a subdomain. If you want to use a full domain, you can do that. So for example, it could be app.mycompany.com. It takes a little bit more work in terms of your certificates uploading, but that's certainly an option. You can upload a login page image, an in-app logo, and a favicon, and also give it a custom color. So I'll show you quickly. We've uploaded these already. We've given it a custom color. You can replace anywhere where we say Cloudtrax in the application. You can replace those with your own information. You can also decide if you want to use our help center, which is branded Cloudtrax, or if you want to use your own. So in this case, rather than the help center a link, we've just directed people to the Streakwave contact us page, and then we've given the help@streakwave.com email address. So when that's all in place, the result is a white label controller that looks like this. So we have a nice picture of Josh there. With the Streakwave logo, you can sign in and everything will be branded as we determined. So again, Streakwave's logo, their color scheme, everything is set up and ready to go as your own service, essentially. So that's what I have on the Cloudtrax side. I think now we'll open it up for questions.
Great, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Great overview. So again, you have the ability to answer questions via typing them in on the application itself. I've got a few set up already. There are a few questions that have come in throughout the presentation. First one that came in, I'm going to make sure Brian's there. Brian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. So the first question we have is, how does the mesh work?
So the mesh works wirelessly from access point to access point, and as Ryan was saying before, you have your gateways and your repeaters. Your gateways are what are plugged directly into the network, and they are what the repeaters will connect to and talk to. So when you set up your repeaters, just plug them into power within range of one of the gateways, and then they will automatically seek out and connect to that gateway. Now, if you have another repeater that's too far away to see the gateway, but it still can see the repeater, it will hop through that repeater back to the gateway, and then thus forming a mesh. Now, there are some performance penalties to that. The bandwidth gets cut in half for each hop that you do, because it has to receive the information and then rebroadcast it. So that's a limitation. So for best performance, you want to wire as many of them as you can, but the mesh is there for a convenient option for where you can't get cabling.
All right, thank you very much. So the next question is, let's see, this one's coming quite a bit. What happens to my network if Cloudtrax goes down?
Yes, so Cloudtrax is completely out of band managed, so none of your user traffic goes through our servers. It goes to the access point and then out onto your network and then out through to the internet. So if Cloudtrax were to ever go down, or there's Amazon Web Services just completely blows up, your network will continue to function with the last settings that it got before Cloudtrax went down. Now, during that period, you wouldn't get any usage statistics that you see, but everything will continue to function. Vouchers will continue to function as well, except they go back into a fail-safe mode so that any voucher that's entered will just automatically get an hour's worth of access, so that you aren't just completely left in the dark on that. So it is pretty safe. We also have a section on our resources page on openmesh.com that will get into a little more detail about some of the safeguards we have in place to keep that from affecting your network too badly.
Great, thank you, Brian. The next one is kind of a combination of both those questions, which is how does the self-healing work? So what happens? Just to give a quick overview on how the self-healing works, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the access points, the gateways are always checking for an internet connection. And so if their internet connection goes down, somebody with a backhoe cuts the fiber line, they will fall back to being repeaters and try to connect to another gateway that is still connected. Now you could have a performance penalty for that, but it's better than having the whole network go down, because you'll still have some connectivity there. And then as soon as that line gets repaired, it'll come back up and be repeaters again. Be your gateways again, and they will self-heal through to make that work. So everything is automatic and pretty seamless on that.
Great, thank you, Brian. One that just came in, which is an interesting, great question, is what's the max distance for APs? How far apart can you separate them?
Yeah, it depends on the model. So some of our models have higher power radios than others, and then also every building is going to be different. So with those caveats in mind, the OM2P and OM2PHS are our most powerful models, and they can go in a clear, open line of sight, best case environment, about 400 to 500 feet. And then the OM5PAC it has a weaker radio, so it can go about 200 feet or so, and then the MR1750 can go about 400 to 500 feet as well.
Great, thank you. As usual with Wi-Fi, the answer is always it depends, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the next question is more towards Cloudtrax, and it's how do I manage multiple accounts?
Yeah. So as Ryan was saying before, each network has its own individual login. So if you have a local admin on site that you trust, you can give them just that network name and network password. So for instance, in our case in the demo there, you would log in with OpenMesh main office and then the password for that network, and then they would see just that network. They wouldn't see that drop-down box at the top to flip between networks. So that's a good option that you can that you can give out. There's also the read-only mode that Ryan was talking about, and that would give them just a very basic overview of the network. And then there is the lobby assistant, which was designed with hospitality in mind so that the front desk can manage vouchers but not mess with any of the other settings on the network.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Brian. The next one, I think I'm going to dish over to Ryan because it pertains to the demo that he just did. So the question reads, I'm currently logged into Cloudtrax. However, I don't have the opportunity or the options to remove the Cloudtrax verbiage and the fave icon. Ryan, can you take that one?
Yeah, sure, Greg. So this was, it's very early on in the process. We've just released it to a few customers now. So if you want to have access to this feature, just reach out to our support and sales team here, just sales@openmesh.com, and they'll be able to enable that feature for you. Note that this is actually one of the first things that there will be a cost associated with it. So as I said in the demo, everything that we've done in Cloudtrax in terms of the network management, basically everything you see today, aside from the white label aspect, is free and will be free forever. But some of our customers have asked us for some additional features that are kind of, not related to the core networking services, the core things that you do on your network, such as white labeling, and so there will be a fee associated with that. Our sales team can help you out with getting some information there.
Great, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Yeah, and on that, we are in beta now, and it's not a completely wide open beta, so we may have to limit it. But for right now, we are still accepting people to attach to that beta and go ahead and send an email to sales@open-mesh.com. All right, next question. Brian, this one's back at you. On the two rear ports, does it matter which one is connected to the LAN or which one is connected to the device?
No, it doesn't. So the firmware will figure out what kind of port it is based on DHCP. So that is a requirement of our networks, is that you need to have DHCP running on the network so that they can plug in and just automatically go out to Cloudtrax and download the configuration. So when you plug into either of those network ports, it will request DHCP. If it doesn't see DHCP there, then it will just assume that it's a repeater and try to connect to a gateway. If it is a repeater, or if it's a gateway and you have that second port on there, the client, you can plug a computer in there or a switch, printer, whatever you want, and it will bridge those clients over to the SSID you specify on the Advanced tab that Ryan demonstrated before. So if you are installing it in a hotel room and you still want all of the users to go through the splash page, even if they're connected via Ethernet, you can make that happen with that pass-through port.
Great, thank you very much, Brian. So we've just got time to answer one more question. Understand that we literally got tens of, almost, I'd say hundreds of questions. We will capture all of these and put them into a document, either post them or get them out to everyone who's attended the meeting today. The last question we had that I'm going to answer today is there any filtering built into Cloudtrax? And the answer is, once again, it depends. Is it actually built into Cloudtrax? No. But what you can do is you can operate with OpenDNS, and what you would do is configure DHCP settings so that your DNS resolver points at that server or that location. So we can do it via third-party applications, and we're partnered with quite a few of them. So that's going to be it for our Q&A session today. Josh, are you out there?
Yes, thank you, OpenMesh, Craig, Ryan, and Brian for a great session. And thanks to everyone that joined us. We know your time is valuable, so we appreciate it very much. I know we didn't get to everyone's questions today, but we will capture all of them, go through them, and we'll contact you a little later after the webinar. It may take a couple of days to get through all of them, but we will get back to you. And if you have any other questions after this, please be sure to give us a call at Streakwave. Otherwise, we will sign off for now. And thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate the hosting. Have a great day, everybody.